Okay. Well, I've definitely never been as popular as I have over the last few months. I can never get 50 odd people booked onto an energy webinar. So I hope you find this useful. So we're the commercial energy partner for the Black Country Chamber of Commerce, and we work with quite a few members, and particularly some of the significantly larger members, to support them with managing their energy costs. And by energy costs, really what I'm talking about in my presentation is, I think there might be some people who just need muting. Joe, if you can mute all. The energy procurement, so supply contracts. And as we go through the presentation, other people are going to talk about other things around how you can effectively consume less and how you fund that. So my contact details on here. We're going to share the slides. Feel free to reach out to me. So 4 things I'm going to cover. I reckon this is going to be about 15 minutes or so. I've done this presentation probably about 30 or so times. You're either going to get a very polished version or a jaded version. I'll let you decide which. So what we're going to talk about just how bad is it, just to give you a sense of the state of play, understanding your energy contract options, exploring a flexible purchasing framework, and also if your contracts are due in 2022 and you haven't contracted, what are you going to do? What's the plan? That's probably quite a critical bit of this, because I assume that very few people on here are in that boat. So let's jump into it. So this is an example of a Wolverhampton-based single-site manufacturer where they're this is for electricity. They've got a contract due 1st of October. Current ex-VAT costs are £1,000 per annum, and on the right, this is from a couple of weeks ago, this slide, you will see the cost variance for both 12, 24 and 36 month fully fixed contracts. That effectively puts them out of business as of the 1st of October. That's how severe it is. What does that look like for them in terms of increase in rates? So you may have seen figures similar to this, or if you haven't, you're now acutely aware of what's going on. So they're coming off day rates of 14.379, night rates of 10.62, and below that you'll see both 12, 24, 36 month fully fixed unit rates. You can see the vast increase that they and lots of other people are facing. This is a multi-site business. Half their business is in the Black Country. This is a gas contract. Again, due 1st of October, current spend £308,000 a year, going up to over £3 million a year. That's how severe it is. What does that look like for them in terms of unit rates? Coming off a rate of 2.02. When this was put together, they were facing 12, 24, 36 month unit rates of those on screen there, so between 24 and 28.5p. As I go through this presentation, you hopefully get from what I'm saying and the tone in which I'm saying it is that anybody signing a fixed contract in this market is a crazy business decision. Again, just another one. Again, this is another Black Country manufacturer. Their current costs are on the top there, 257 grand a year for electricity, 204 for gas. Now, their contracts aren't actually due until April next year. So they had fixed price quotes 13th of June, 28th of July, 17th of August. That business, again, at this level is effectively having to close as of April next year if the prices are anything like this. So that's how severe it is. Let's talk about your options and what you might want to think about doing. So broadly, there are 2 types of contracts. So you have fully fixed contracts. So fully fixed contracts are where you take the commodity cost and the non-commodity cost, and you fix that for a period of time, typically 1, 2, or 3 years. The commodity cost is the wholesale cost of electricity and gas, and the non-commodity cost is all the other stuff which makes up the bottom line. So things like distribution costs, transmission When a supplier gives you a fixed price, they take the market curve at the day that they're tendering. So for example, if you're having a fixed price today for a contract due to start in October and you're doing a 3-year contract, they take a snapshot as of today of that forward weighted curve. So it's a snapshot on just one day, and they estimate the non-commodity costs because not all of those are known further out. And as a result, they may call it risk, we might call it additional margin. They build in additional risk or margin to cover themselves effectively, which is why you're seeing astronomically high unit rates on fixed contracts. Now, in our opinion, opting for this option now would essentially be locking in forward volume at market highs with huge market risk being built in. And I just, our view is that is absolutely broken, and there is another alternative. And I've put in there that in some cases it is genuinely as severe as it would be business suicide for businesses signing a fixed contract. So flexible framework. So a flexible framework, the decisions to purchase the commodity elements, again, that's the bit that we can control when and how we purchase, are made by us for you over time. And therefore you don't have to commit all of your volume on one day like you do with a fixed contract. It gives you the ability to make multiple purchases over time, taking into consideration market conditions, budget and risk. Effectively, you're spreading your decisions and you can take advantage of the market when it moves lower, and you can build hedged positions. It also gives you the ability to not purchase, and I'm going to talk about that in a slide as we move on, which has proven a pretty powerful tactic of late. And you can take what we call the day ahead price. And for those who are waiting to make a decision because they think it will go down, a flexible framework would allow you to take advantage of that immediately. My only caveat to that is that I wrote these slides before the potential of any announcement tomorrow. So let's see what happens with that. So flexible frameworks. So you'll have to forgive me because some people on this call are probably going to be too small to benefit from a flexible framework. I'm just going to use some rough sums here. If you're consuming less than a minimum of 100,000 kWh per annum, this is not an appropriate product for you. And typically you'd be using a minimum of 1 million kilowatts per annum. However, between 100,000 and 1 million, we can do something for you in this market. So large clients have always predominantly managed energy contracts in this way, and a large client to us and a supplier is somebody who uses 10 million kilowatts of electricity or gas per annum. So back in 2018 we created effectively a basket, a consortium, which gave businesses who consumed less than 10 million kilowatts per annum the opportunity to access a flexible purchasing framework and effectively group consumption together, so you could get access to the wholesale market and operate with our support like large clients would. And if you just think about the fact that businesses who would have never had to purchase in this way previously, to some degree are now forced to purchase in this way, because although your consumption hasn't changed, the pounds and pence implication now means you have to think like a much larger energy consumer, and therefore your decisions to purchase are far more, or should be far more strategic than just doing a fixed contract on only one day. So unless there's a very strong reason to opt for fixed pricing, I can't really remember the last time we did fixed pricing for any client of ours. We're advising all clients to move to this approach. I'm going to just give you a very, very quick illustration. It is a very simple model, but I hope it will help you understand. So you sign a flexible contract. You can sign it at any point before a contract starts. So there's going to be people on this call who I imagine have got 1st of October contracts. You can sign that now. You may not have a contract which is due until October 24. You can still sign a flexible framework now. So you have a contract start date and a contract end date. Now within that, these bars here represent each month within that contract period, and at any point we can take decisions to buy bits of energy over time. So a very, very simple illustration. We may make a first purchase which is for the first 7 months there. You may make another purchase, which is for a bit more for those first 7 months, plus further down the contract length, a third purchase and a fourth purchase. What does that look like month by month? Again, ignore the figures in this because this was put together quite some time ago, but the principle still stands. So in this example, we're going to have 3 purchases. So you've got 20% of volume purchased, then you've got 60%, and then a further 20%. Now on your invoice, when you see that month, the month after the consumption period, so it's billed in exactly the same way that you see your bills now, you would see a weighted average price of those 3 purchases. Contracts due in 22, what's the plan? There is definitely no easy answers to any of this. Let's see what's announced tomorrow. I'm really not sure how that's going to impact businesses, particularly businesses which are not classed as micro business, which is probably the majority of people on the call. So just 2 things you need to be aware of. So 1st of October is the most common contract date across the UK portfolio. That's always been the case. And suppliers and us are, already indicating it's just an unprecedented level of business who haven't done anything. It's beyond scary, really. We've got suppliers who are just not in the market. So, for example, if somebody said, "Can you get me a fixed price for next week?" I reckon you get 2, maybe 3 people submit prices, and they're not favourable prices because they know there are only 2 or 3 actually in the market. Everybody else is effectively shut up shop. They're not interested. It's more risk on their books. They don't want the business, which presents challenges to you as businesses and us. The other really big issue is how credit is being assessed. So previously this wasn't that much of an issue. It definitely is now. So given the contract value, suppliers are struggling to get credit insurance to underwrite the contract, in which case you're either being declined or having to potentially stump up what could be some fairly hefty security deposits even to get a seat at the table. And if there is a supplier who is still in the market for fixed contracts, as I say, they're building in obscene margins. I had a gas quote yesterday which was about 6p higher than the market average, just because they knew that they were the only supplier in town. It's criminal, really. So let's just focus on the flexible contracts in the latter end of this. So what this graph shows is why it's now very, very difficult to time fixed price contracts. So on the left of this, you'll see this goes back to 2018. And as we look retrospectively back now, this is, that all looks like pretty plain sailing. There's a bit of a bump at the start, which was the beast from the east, which now looks like nothing. And people were losing their minds about energy costs then. There's an amber line in the middle, which is COVID, which is demand destruction. But it looks relatively flat. And on the right, you just see how volatile the market is. So timing a fixed contract, if you can even get one, is virtually impossible. And the swings between day, depending on how much you consume, you could be talking of tens, hundreds of thousands of pounds in terms of contract value swings per day. Same for electricity. So these are the figures from yesterday. So we're advising all clients effectively to not actually purchase energy at the minute. And that is not the same as going out of contract with your current supplier. So within a flexible framework, if you don't purchase, then you are effectively purchasing from a default mechanism, which is called the day ahead market. Some people might be familiar with it as sort of spot pricing. And the reason that we're recommending that is that is the only market which is showing value over forward months and forward seasons. And yesterday is a really, really good example of that. So yesterday, this is just a wholesale cost. This hasn't got non-commodity elements in it. But yesterday, the electricity day ahead price, which was yesterday's price for today's delivery of electricity, the wholesale cost was 28p. Well, the month ahead, so if I was to buy just October as 1 month, was 47.5, and to buy all of winter, which is the 6 months, October to March, you're paying 75p. The spread's phenomenal. Same for gas. Yesterday, day ahead price just over 8p. To buy all of October, 13.62, and a winter season at 18.63. Now, whilst that would present some, you've not got fixed prices for a fixed period of time, that is a very good example and snapshot of why we are advising all clients not to be purchasing energy and taking the day ahead price. You have to be comfortable with the fact that you're going to have a different price every single day for that month. And then when you get your invoice at the end of that month, it's the weighted average of all of those day ahead prices. But looking at that, that is a very clear snapshot of why you should be considering that as an option. One final point just before I hand to Dom. I think this is another, hopefully this will lead into what Dom's going to talk about here. So when you do a fixed contract, you have what you call take or pay clauses, and effectively they are tolerances plus or minus either side of your forecast consumption that you can use, and they're being squeezed by suppliers. So let's just take an example whereby you consume 1 million kilowatts of electricity per annum, and you sign a fixed contract which has a 10% tolerance to it. So you can use between 900,000 kWh and 1.1 million. Anything outside of that, you can and definitely will in this market be charged for. Now, what a lot of people are doing, either because they're being forced to because they need to do it to survive, or because they're being strategic in reducing consumption, which Dom is going to come on to talk about. Let's say you sign a fixed contract and you end up using 500,000 kWh. You give yourself a big pat on the back. Well done, jobs are good. And then the supplier comes to you for the difference that you've not used, because they definitely will in this market. Now, with a flexible contract, you can continually reforecast your consumption throughout that contract to avoid take or pay clauses. So if you do something like, you're going to install solar, and if that is your plan as a business or you're thinking about it, you absolutely should not be signing fixed contracts. You should be signing flexible contracts, not just because of what I've been talking about there in terms of the day ahead price, but to ensure that you are not retrospectively penalized for using less within a fixed contract. I'm going to stop sharing because I think that's probably a good point to hand over to Dom. Thanks all very much.
Thanks, Liam.
Thanks, Lou.
Let you get on now, Dom.
Not a problem. Morning, everybody. Thank you very much. I'm going to create a bit of pain first, because unfortunately there isn't a magic wand that comes out for many of us here today. It's just about what we can do. And as Liam has intimated, there's going to be quite a significant announcement tomorrow to go in. How that extends to the business sector is really unsure currently at the moment. So I'm just going to share my screen with you. So I'd like to sort of go back to why are we in this energy crisis currently at the moment. So and the simple answer, we're in a perfect storm. It has things to do with the global conflict that's going on in Ukraine and Russia. It has a way of our energy mix. So this was taken at 8 AM this morning. So 51% of our electricity generation comes from gas. So go in, and the UK gas rate is directly linked to wholesale gas price. So as the gas price goes up, the wholesale gas price goes up, the electricity price comes in. It doesn't take into account the other additional generations that go in, whether that be wind, solar, nuclear, biomass, or imports to go in. We had issues last summer where renewable generation was low. 2 nuclear power stations, reactors came offline for unscheduled works, which resulted that we had to burn gas reserves, which we'd already dialed down because of COVID. And then we needed to increase our gas generated electricity, and we even put coal back on, which you'll see there is today, in order to keep the UK electrified. to come in. With Russia currently taking down one of the gas supplies into Europe, everybody is looking to buy from the open market, which has increased the prices, which increases from us to go in. So what do we need to do also as well? Liam spoke about a non-commodity and commodity element. The non-commodity element in UK electricity is increasing. 10 years ago, it was about 15% of a unit rate. Now it's over 55%. Why? Because the UK is forecast to double its electricity consumption by 2050 as we electrify transportation in the UK and also electrify domestic heating to go in. So that's why we're in this energy crisis. It's a culmination of many, many different things. On top of that, we're having to invest in renewables for our commitment to net zero as well. So how long will it last? Simple answer is we don't know. There is great anticipation going on at the moment for Liz Truss announcements tomorrow. It's widely expected that the domestic price cap that was due to come in for additional 80% on the 1st of October will be suspended for 18 months, 2 years, and that will be subsidised. And in effect, domestic consumers will end up paying that back over the next 2 decades to go in. As yet, we have no confirmation of what it will. It is really clear that something will have to be done. As Liam sort of showed you with some of those prices, we're seeing now 96 pence for contracts to come out for immediate pricing today. Unfortunately, I don't think there is anybody that sees that's associated with the energy market to see the days of 11, 12, 15 pence per kilowatt ever coming back to go in. I think it will most likely short term come to around about 45 pence and 40 pence. But make no qualms, the cost of electricity in the UK is forecast to climb as we go towards 2050 with the commitment to net zero. So what can you do to reduce your energy costs? We've seen the pain there. I think it's important to understand, and there are certain things that are in your control and there are certain things that are beyond your operational control. And the first one always has to look at is to reduce your consumption, because if we accept that electricity prices will increase, they will drop back down, but they will continue to climb over the next 20, 30 years, is the first point has to be to reduce consumption. And it sounds ridiculous, but ensuring is reducing wastage in it, making sure things are turned off. It's very unlikely within any business that it's anyone's job to turn things off. But what you find is that you can actually reduce consumption from 5 to 15% to make sure that this becomes habitually part of your business culture. Ensuring you only turn things on is when you need it. Predominantly, you see that in manufacturing, where you're setting machines up and running, you're putting compressors on, and then they go and have a cup of tea, and then they come and use it. I've got to turn it on, whether it is now. If you are turning things on half an hour before you're going to use them, you are consuming electricity. LED lighting has a significant reduction, 80% reduction on your lighting. So if that's a significant part, that's definitely something to look at. And then something called VO, voltage optimization. It's a very simple thing. It's a little box that sits on your incoming supply that optimizes the voltage to come in. So if you have a large manufacturing or into manufacturing and you have motors on production lines, if they're not inverted motors, then voltage optimization can deliver between 8 to 17%. Liam's just spoken to you. It's about procuring that cheaper energy. So once you've mitigated the wastage within it, and you're going to have to go out, is to look at procuring from the grid the cheapest energy, and whether that be baskets or thing or within flex contracts, that's something that Liam will help with. The other thing to look at is decentralized energy. So that is taking away your energy that doesn't come from the national grid. So predominantly that will be where you create the energy that you use within your immediate environment to come in. And that does a number of things. One, it mitigates any other external influencing. So electricity price linked to gas prices, looking at increases in commodity charges to go in. Most common forms of decentralized energy, PV, known as solar, and that can be either roof mounted or ground mounted to go in. CHP, which is combined heat and power unit. CHP is becoming more and more common practice. It is nothing more complicated than an engine that creates electricity and creates heat, as the name suggests. The technology has been around for decades. Most hospitals in the UK have this technology within it to go in. But like a lot of things, the technology has got smaller. So now you don't have to be on an industrial scale electricity consumer to benefit from that. You can actually be a low consumer, and some people are actually looking to put something like that within their home. And then you have things around ground source heat pumps, air source heat pumps, but not really in terms of your electrical demand for your manufacturing businesses. Historically, decentralized energy solutions have had a high capex with paybacks between 7 to 12 years. So in today's market, where you're looking to reduce your cost today, then the traditional way of investing within that probably isn't suitable. However, we have a number of solutions now that come with a zero capex, a zero OPEX available. So it doesn't cost you anything to adopt these solutions. It doesn't cost you anything to look after them. They're fully managed. You never own the asset piece to come in. You just take in a benefit. So if we look at the CHP, the combined heat and power fully funded, so this is ideal where you've got a constant loading business, or where you have a heat and cooling requirement. It is an engine. It will only operate about 50% of its rated output. So if it's a 500 kilowatt machine, your hourly demand needs to be at 250 kilowatts. Anything below that, you would then revert back to the grid. Just for clarity, with CHP, with PV, you will always require a grid connection. With the CHP, it will need servicing. It's a machine, it will come offline. So you always have that. There is no break. You will never notice any difference between which is providing you any of these electrical sources. If you've got PV at home, the lights don't flicker when it changes from your generation from the PV panels, or you collect it from the grid to go in. So the ideal solution for this is where you've got manufacturing that comes online and it goes all the way along data centers or refrigeration to come in. However, if you can utilize heat, whether that be wet or dry, and that can be for food grade, cooling or heating requirements, then you can get an additional benefit. So where you may be combusting natural gas at the moment to create hot water, steam, or cooling in effect through a HVAC system, if you've got that, you can use this machine to actually provide your business with a secondary benefit, not only the reduced cost in electricity, but also in providing cooling and heating to give you an increased benefit. So as I said, there's zero capex. The partners that we work with will provide all of the machinery, the installation, all the connection, the G99, all of the paperwork of dealing with the district network operator. They take care of all of that. They take all of that OPEX as well. It's fully managed, it's fully serviced. They only get remuneration from you is when they deliver you power. So they are adamant that it will be available as much as it will be. Savings are typically between 18 to 38%. That is based on people that have a contract today. It's not taking into account these really high prices that are coming. If we were to factor those in, so these temporary prices that Liam was talking about, where you're up at 96 pence to go in and on that, these savings, you would, if I put them up, you would all turn around and leave and depart it and think that these can't be true, because the savings would be in excess of 62, 65, 70% of where that is. We have one client at the moment with 6 sites, and they're looking at it, and the forecast, and they are large consumption sites, but the forecast saving from this solution is about £150 million over the next 15 years, which leads me nicely on that it's committing to a 15-year power purchase agreement to go in. The caveat is that, and the backstop is that you will never pay more than you can buy it from the grid, whether that be through a flex contract or whether it goes for the fixed piece to go in. So you've got that security. So this will never disadvantage you moving forward to go in. All the machines are able to run on hydrogen. Most run on natural gas today. They will do a blend of in between of natural gas and hydrogen and available. Where you can procure carbon offset gas, then technically the electricity that comes out of it is carbon neutral electricity, because the emissions that the electricity have been taken care of before. So it helps if you are measuring your carbon footprint, as we all should do, to move in. And as I said, they're hydrogen enabled to go in. Just important, most will sit within a 20-foot or 40-foot shipping container, dual machines to come in to really balance your loading to come out. They can go down to the size of 1 meter by 1 meter to go in, and then fully funded PV solar panels. These are ideal for businesses with large roof space and operate normal sort of 8 to 6 working days to avoid battery storage. You can add battery solution back into this. It's important to see, say at this point, is that your generation in July, August months could be anywhere up to 8 times more than you will get in December and January. To go in, just purely because of the sun flight paths of generation. Again, zero capex, zero opex. Savings vary between 16 to 42% of where it is. The additional benefit of here is that where you are not using your all of the generation, if you're not looking to create a battery storage solution, the remaining will be exported back out. Now, historically, a solar, so I have a large 46 million kilowatt solar farm, and we would normally look at about 5.5 to 7.5 pence export value. Currently, at the moment, we're being offered 55 pence per kilowatt for a 3-year export on 3.8 million kilowatts. It is a crazy world at the moment. We're also able on the CHPs to get an export as well, and we're working to provide additional revenue for those machines to come in. Again, looking at your net zero journey to come in, it's looking at heavily, significantly reducing the carbon emissions associated with your electricity. And there you'd be looking at a 30-year PPA. So historically, solar panels have been glass with a foil cell underneath. And whilst they look pretty and sit up, you get atmospheric contaminants that degrade the foil, this foil cell, the photovoltaic cell. When that goes, it degrades and it falls off a cliff to go in. So the cells that go on are by BMW, the vehicle manufacturer, under their name SolarWatt, and they're glass, foil and glass, and they have an 87% warranted output at the end of 30 years. So it's important to think that actually, if we're going to go down this route, the actual generation will be there for the next 30 years to go in. If the funded option, the fully funded option, you don't meet the criteria for that to go in, and a lot of that is done is looking at half-hourly data, looking at your business, looking at your requirements to go in, then either of those solutions may still be viable for you, but for you to actually purchase them at the moment. And there is a lot of money available for lending for businesses around low carbon net zero technology to go in. So the best person to talk to you about funding options for energy reduction and energy cost is Alison from Central Business. So I'll hand over to Alison.
Thanks, Dom. Alison, are you there? Let's have a look.
I am. Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you.
Good. Thanks, Dom. That was a great introduction. Couldn't have done better myself. Right, I'll try and let me just try and share my screen. Here we are. So, yeah, Alison Bradley from Central Business Finance. And we are finance brokers. You may wonder how this fits in, but Dom's just given a great introduction. Majority of my clients are manufacturing businesses, and increasingly we're being asked to finance energy saving solutions. So that might be LED lights, solar panels, electric vehicle charging points. So that's how we fit in this presentation. So we've been going for about 12 years, just give you a quick overview of who we are. We've got 12 members of staff. We've all got different specialisms in finance. So we do anything from commercial mortgages, tax funding, startup loans, rebanking, invoice finance. So we're a one-stop shop for any type of finance solution. And here we are, we've got green finance right in the middle there. So whatever you're thinking about, whether it's protection against the wholesale costs or just reducing your carbon footprints, going green, these are just a few of the items. I mean, this list is not exhaustive. We do have a lot of capital funding solutions, and we've got a vast range of lenders as well. I thought I'd just give you a few examples so that you can see how it works for in specific cases. So example one here is a solar panel installation. So this is a company that's based in Birmingham. They are a distributor of personal transport solutions. So that's scooters, mobility scooters, bikes, that kind of thing. They have just put up a 14,500 square metre warehouse in Birmingham, and they're putting solar on their roof. So the amount was 73,000 plus the VAT. We got them a flat rate of 4.5% on that. Their total cost of finance over the 5 years is 16,000. We split that out, it's costing them 3,200 a year, but their annual savings from the installing the solar is 13,500 a year. So you can see there, even with the cost of finance factored in, they're still saving over £10,000 a year. Just move on to example two. This is a customer, a smaller customer, firm of architects. They wanted EV charging points for their staff. So we did that over 4 years. That cost them £966 per annum, but obviously their staff are all going to be using electric vehicles, so that's going to be a vast saving in petrol costs. And the third one I've got is a manufacturing company. This is another solar panel installation, 350,000. So their cost of finance, 3.27 flat rate there. The rates always depend on the strength of the company, basically. So it's how long the company's been going, credit rating, that kind of thing. So their cost of finance, £11,500 per annum, but their annual savings are £68,000 per annum on installing the solar. So you can see that even with the cost of finance factored in, there's still a massive saving to be made. As I say, we can finance LED lighting. I know that there's a massive saving on that to customers. The other thing that might be interesting to you that you might not know about is the super deduction tax allowance. So this was announced back in April 2021, runs till March 2023. So those CapEx items that you're investing in to save energy, you can claim your super deduction tax allowance against. So this is you can claim 130% of the cost. I had a customer the other day that asked us to quote him on some CapEx. It was about £120,000. He'd been asked to finance. He needed to finance the equipment. A customer had asked him, but was pressing him down on price. He didn't know about this tax allowance. And this actually has made all the difference to him. It's actually made the job a more profitable job. So you can claim this against, you know, your LED lighting, your energy, your solar panels, and that runs till March 2023. I've put government link there, so that gives you a lot more information on that. I don't profess to be an accountant, so your accountant no doubt has told you about this. So that's it basically. I mean, short and sweet. I'm happy to answer any questions today, or if there are anything, you know, if there's anything specific to your business, it's, you know, I'm happy to take a phone call and have a chat in private. So thank you very much.